you think of the 1960s in America, what images come to your mind? I find, as a US history instructor, that high school teachers and college professors alike, when they teach the 1960s, tend to focus on the liberal movements of the decade, and perhaps some of these came to mind: civil rights, anti-war, hippies, feminists. And rightly so, for historians mainly highlight change. However, at any one point of time in this decade, there was never more than 5% of the American population involved in a protest movement. So what about the other 95% who Richard Nixon called the silent majority? Did they agree or disagree with the protests, and on what basis? So my students know about the Ku Klux Klan reaction to civil rights, but in their politically correct upbringing cannot possibly comprehend why average Americans, both young and old, would be against racial equality or social change on a much broader basis. And it was their questions about this right response that prompted my interest in this topic. So I used tried and true historical methods by looking at magazines, newspapers, and archival sources, but I also use an unconventional method by examining the letters that average Americans wrote to the White House to express their discontent with the movements. And I have found that for every movement, there was also a counter-movement. But the media only covered the protests because they were more sensational. So my students will tell you about MLK, Woodstock, and the burning of bras, but they've never heard about decency rallies where Jackie Gleason came to an audience of 35,000 high school and college youth to sing about and to praise American morals and virtues. For the United States was in the middle of a Cold War with the Soviet Union, and the spread of communism, specifically in Korea and Vietnam, was very fresh in their minds. And in fact, many of these Americans argued in their letters and blamed communist infiltration of these movements for trying to tear apart the country from within. So I argue that this group of Americans is not as silent as history has portrayed them, for they were indeed influencing politics through their letters. For we see with the political ascent of President Ronald Reagan in the 1980s that this group is no longer considered silent, but victors. Thank you.